It is truly an honor to have you on the show. You know, the mission of Women Winning Wednesdays is really to empower women. And that, I believe, is in direct alignment with what you do every single day. Now, we've of course met through networking stuff, but I followed you on social media and I have just seen your meteoric rise as an international influencer. But before we talk about that, I'd really like the audience to really get to know more of you. So tell us how you got started in the health and wellness field. Let's start there.
Well, today, like you said, I'm founder of the Sexy Fit and Well movement, this business mogul, been in business full time for about 15 years and doing absolutely amazing. But it wasn't always like that.
Mm.
I just didn't land on this mountain. There was some climbing from the bottom that had to be done. So when you talk about my whole life, I simply sum it up like this. I've gone from horrific to terrific.
Mm.
And some of the horrificness started early on, in my childhood, because when you talk about the things that you go through in life, so for all of my setbacks that I had, there was some amazing comebacks. But I think those setbacks just set me up for one of the biggest comebacks in my life. And I'll explain, because as a child, I've gone through child abuse, we got beat simply because we existed, So,
Wow. Wow.
so when you're talking about being a child, being abused by your parents, being molested by your father, those are some of the things that you go through. So that's just some of the horrificness that stay with you for a very, very long time until you decide to let it go. And I didn't know how to let it go because I went from child abuse. Then I went to a domestic violence situation. Well, I went to homelessness first. So even after leaving my father's and my mom, not leaving, they threw us out. So threw us out in the street and you had nowhere to go, or the places that you had to go wasn't a place that you wanted to live. By then I had a child. So I was very skeptical about where I was going to take her or where she was going to be until you don't have a choice.
Mm.
So I didn't have I did have a choice. The choice was, am I going to stay in a drug infested place or
Mm.
am I going to live on the streets? So I thought me and my daughter would be safer on the street. So we lived in a phone booth for a long time. So we
Wow.
were homeless, and that phone booth was our life for a while. But I was a pretty smart chick back then too. So I made my phone booth my home. I was in school for engineering, and again, I never, even through all of that, I was a smart kid. So in high school, we were the smart kids that went to college while we were in high school. So
Gotcha.
while I was in high school, I was in Newark College of Engineering at the time. So I was a pretty smart kid. I was in school for engineering. So inside of my phone booth, I took the phone apart at night, and so nobody wouldn't come in because the phone was broken. That was back in the day when there was phone booths and you can still go in. So I
Yeah.
took the phone booth apart at night, and there was the phone booth was next to a house that's sort of set up. So I
Uh-huh.
took the panel off the bottom. So that's where I had my daughter sleep at
Oh
when
my
we were
goodness.
in there for those hours, right? I got up in the morning, I went to school, and took my daughter with me, or I dropped her off to somebody to watch her. So even as homeless, I still was trying to be better. I mean,
Mm.
even when we had to eat, yes, I ate out the garbage can. I waited for the pizza man to make sure, before the rats got to it, we was going to get to it first. So you do everything when you're on the streets. All you think about is where I'm going to sleep and what I'm going to eat, because those were the two things that you had. You just survive and make sure that you were a little safe and nobody bothered you. So I did some unspeakable things just to survive until I got out of there. But I did get out
Mm.
of there. To sum it up, a man took me out of there, a man that I had met in one of those drug infested houses. And
Mm.
I thought he was security, making sure they didn't get robbed or whatever. So he ran into me later and he became my boyfriend. But again, not knowing all the things. And that's where the domestic violence came in. So of course, he took me off the street. I thought going with him was being better than living on the street, right? With me and my daughter, we were now in a house. But I just went from the frying pan into the fire, because this man beat the hell out of me for 4 years. And one of the things what you always say, then why did you stay? Why did you stay there?
Well, before you get into the why did you stay, I want, because there's so much there. And it's unfortunate that we only have a half an hour to just do a deep dive into this. But first of all, I just want to just take a breath and just acknowledge all of the stuff that you have gone through